Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy. Welcome to Block and Key. Today is February 25th, 2019, and I just wanted to bring you another video to share with you exactly what I intend to do this year during this bear market, how I think that we're probably really close to a bottom. It's not 100% certain yet, but it's probably really close. And what I'm doing, I'm not trading, I'm just accumulating quietly in the shadows that hopefully in the next year or so, the fruits of my labor will be well rewarded. So if you want to learn more what I'm doing and what I've been doing since 2015, stay tuned and we'll be right back. Block and Key. So in this video, I want to talk a little bit when I got started into Bitcoin, heavily invested, and where I see the market going probably for the remainder of this year, maybe into 2020. There's been a lot of talk the last few weeks about the golden cross and the death cross. And I have to be totally honest, I really didn't know too much about the golden cross, but as you can see here, in around March of last year is when we had our death cross. This is well reported. And so I want to touch upon that. And shout out to Steve from Crypto Crew, I think it's Crypto Crew University, who was probably one of the first YouTubers to really discuss this issue. I don't think he got enough credit for it, but anyway, I'm giving him credit where credit is due with that regard. And so I want to touch upon that and a few other things as well. One thing I've noticed lately, well, for quite a long time, is there's a lot of YouTube channels that are constantly focused on price. What's the price going to do later today? What's it expected to do next week? What's it going to be like in a month's time? And I think a lot of this is noise and people are kind of missing the big picture of what Bitcoin and a lot of the cryptocurrencies are going to do and what they allow us to do in the future. I must admit I'm more of a Bitcoin maximalist. Some coins I can see that are probably going to survive, but for the most part, I really don't hold many of the other altcoins. It's predominantly Bitcoin. Because for me, it is the killer app. I really don't see a lot of apps or dApps and these other cryptos, what they claim to be. The killer app is permissionless, borderless, censorship-resistant value of transfer of value across borders that's unconfiscatable. Outside of that, I really don't see any other killer app, but that's just my opinion. One thing about investing compared to trading is trading is a lot more short-term, it seems to me, short-term gains. Not everyone's trying to get rich quick, but that seems to be the trend. I like to take a really bird's eye view of my investments. I got into silver back in the late 90s, early 2000, and then I think it was around $4 or $5. People laughed at me then, and of course, anyone that knows the precious metals history, I think silver went up to around $50 US in 2011. So again, you know, I made some nice profits there. Bitcoin is a little bit different. It's a lot higher risk. So for that, I choose just to quietly accumulate when I can. During bear markets and peaks, I just stay away. I actually did a video called The Great Crypto Pump and Dump about 6 months before it actually blew up there in 2017. And at that time, I just decided to get out of making videos. It just didn't seem right trying to pump. Everyone was starting a crypto channel, discussing the news, where this thing was going to go. Everybody and their next door neighbor's dog was buying cryptos. And I just didn't want to be a part of the scene. But when it comes to investing, the key word is patience. You have to be very patient with this. There's nothing wrong with doing analysis, looking at charts, making an informed decision. But if you look at some of the greatest investors of the 20th century, Warren Buffett, Carl Icahn, Tim Draper's now a new one that's really been talking a lot about Bitcoin. There's also George Soros. Whether you like these people or you don't like these people aren't really focused on the day-to-day noise of trading. And I just want to give a different perspective on what's worked well for me since 2015. And yeah, just show you some of what I'm looking at and break things down of why Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies, predominantly Bitcoin, is a very safe bet that if you do plan to dip your toes into this market, now was probably a good time to start quietly accumulating. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. It's just my opinion and what's worked well for me since 2015. When I got into Bitcoin in late 2015, I actually had been following it since about 2011. In 2011, I made one of the poorest financial decisions of my life. I looked at Bitcoin. I was running a Bitcoin full node. I was trying to get some Bitcoin. But back in those days, it was very difficult to acquire it. The on-ramps to Bitcoin was almost impossible. And being in Canada, I didn't have access to Coinbase or anything like that. The only thing at that time that seemed to be relevant was local Bitcoins. And at that time, I was looking at about $3 per Bitcoin. And I wanted to get about maybe $2,000 worth of Bitcoin. And I was just getting ready to start an IT business. And instead I thought, well, I'll just wait. We'll see how this works out, because paying $3 for something that's digital didn't seem to make a lot of sense at the time. And I wasn't sure. It was very high risk. If I wasn't starting my business, I probably would have gone through with it. And as you know, I would have had about 670 Bitcoin if I would have bought then. Would I have sold some during the Mt. Gox fiasco? Probably. Would I have had some in there? That's a good possibility as well. So whether or not I would have had those 670 Bitcoins today, I have to be honest and say I probably would have lost at least half of it. But getting back to what I want to discuss here was the Golden Cross and the Death Cross. So I'll show you kind of roughly where I got in and why I think a lot of this, what's being talked about with the price, I still don't understand why people are so obsessed with it. Just for the fact that this is a long-term game. It's a long-term strategy. And everybody seems to be always interested in the price, where the price is going and what it's going to do next week. And I just think you're really missing the big picture if your mindset is to get rich quick. Mine was never about getting rich quick. So right around here, I'd been tracking and following Bitcoin for quite some time, like I said. And then in 2015, I was really starting to pique my interest. So we're all aware of what happened when Mt. Gox blew up and everything was going down. And I have to be honest, I thought Bitcoin was pretty much on its last legs. It was going down just because of everything that had happened. There's so much wealth that was lost. I didn't see it making much of a recovery until around summertime. And I noticed something, it was really starting to plateau out. And this happened for months in here and it just didn't seem to stop. And then you can see here we had our Golden Cross, which again, I wasn't aware of back at the time. I was looking at things more of as a fundamental reason. I wasn't getting any interest on my cash in my bank account. I didn't trust Wall Street. I still don't really trust Wall Street or the financial firms, which also gave birth to Bitcoin. But then you'll see here, we had a Golden Cross here and it come back down. And right around here is where we had our Golden Cross again. And we had this huge spike, which was massive. And I thought for then I missed the boat. I'm like, oh, this thing's going to run. But I'm going to try. Coinbase had just opened up to Canada. You could actually purchase Bitcoin from Coinbase if you're in Canadian. And so right around here, the end of November, beginning of December is when I started accumulating rapidly. And I acquired as much as I could, all going in here. And I think my last purchase was around this area, February, March of 2016. By that time, I thought, well, my position's been set. It seems to be doing not too bad. And so I'm just going to hold back and wait. Now, as we know, the rest is history. We were into this bull market. And it just kept going up. And it just kept going up. And then, of course, we got into our Death Cross. Scale this down here. It was around April. It was around April of 2018. Yeah, right around March, April-ish, we had our Death Cross. And this was well reported. So I'm not tooting my horn, like I knew about the Golden Cross, and that's when I got in. It was just pure luck. A lot of fundamentals And I was kind of forced to move there because, like I said, my bank wasn't giving me any interest on my money and I didn't trust Wall Street. So at that time, I planned to travel and Bitcoin seemed like a safe play. One of the other main reasons I liked Bitcoin in particular, it wasn't, like I said before, it wasn't about getting rich quick. I knew that it would probably rise in value over time, nothing as quick as we've seen in 2017. The things that attracted me to Bitcoin was its store of value, it's secure, it's permissionless and censorship resistant, and it's unconfiscatable asset. So with those qualities, naturally, things are going to rise. And right now is a very good time, in my opinion, not financial advice, should be a good time to start to acquire crypto. So as I said before, we've had our death cross, and there's a lot of similarities. I'm sure you've seen some of the other YouTube videos out there and charts, but this is very reminiscent of 2015, early 2015, and I'm seeing the same signs repeat. This bear market may last a little bit longer. Have we reached a full bottom? To me, it doesn't really matter. We're really close. Even if it drops below 2,000, some people are calling for $1,800 Bitcoin, $1,200. There's hyperwave theory, which I'm going to get to, where Bitcoin must reach 1,000. I don't know if I necessarily believe in any of this stuff. Again, the hyperwave theory, hidden knowledge, you need an oracle, and I just don't know if that's relevant in today's market. Another thing that I see a lot of traders say, well, we don't pay attention to news. We don't want to discuss news. We just put news aside. Now, I'm an investor, not a trader. So news to me is very important. So whether there's fear, uncertainty, and doubt, FOMOs throughout the year, it doesn't really matter to me. I just look at these times that we're in and I accumulate. It's a very simple strategy. We've come down, we've about an 85% loss. So to me, it's simple. We're in a bear market. You acquire what you can. Anything that you can afford to lose, because this is an extremely risky asset. I believe Bitcoin is very solid, but it's still extremely risky. And you just acquire it and hold on to these assets. See, for me, not paying attention to news is very poor judgment. Some of the greatest investors of all time pay attention to news. They also look at charts. If you're a trader, I totally get it. If you're a trader, I can understand you don't pay attention to the news. Everything is based on the charts. But these are all lagging indicators. And I can say, oh, there's 70% accuracy. You can trade based on this doji or this candle, and that's fine, or these indicators. But to me, the simplest strategy is just to buy at bear markets and hold on for the long term. For those that say, oh, you're going to crush the market and, you're beating the drum and moon up the likes and crushing the market since this bear market started. Well, I don't know if if you've been crushing this market for a year and you're making extremely profitable gains, why are you still making YouTube videos? Like, I know if I was worth multi-millions, I wouldn't be bothered making YouTube videos. Maybe the odd one, but I'd be too busy worrying about starting another business or traveling the world or something. So a lot of these people that say they're always calling the tops and calling the bottoms, placing their shorts, be very leery. People say that hodling is a poor judgment. Well, I don't know. I got in 2015 when it was approximately 350 to 400 US. I didn't time the market bottom completely, but I got in at a really good time. And even at today's prices, I'm still up 900 to 1,000%, even after the bubble pop. So today's value, I'm still up 900 to 1,000%. Did I lose any Bitcoin? No. Did I lose potential gains? Perhaps, but then there's also a lot of risk associated with that. So I guess I could trade if I wanted to. I'd probably lose it because I'm a terrible gambler. But anyhow, as you can see, like we're really getting into an area here where I think it's plateaued. Um, we've really, we got to be getting close to a bottom. How long it'll last yet, I'm not sure, but I've been accumulating for the first time since 2015, early 2016, just back in December, when we just dropped below, I think it was 3,600. And I started buying dips, and as it ran up, I never buy in a FOMO, I never buy on a rise. Traders maybe can trade with that. I only buy on pullbacks or severe pullbacks. And then in early January, somewhere in around here, I bought again when it got down to about 3,600 again. And I just bought another dip a few weeks back. And so I'm going to probably hold off. We did have this spike here over the last couple of weeks. Started to run up pretty quickly. And then we had a massive pullback, as everyone is aware of, over just yesterday on Sunday. So is the market dead? Is it going to zero? I highly doubt it. I thought about buying some dips, but I'm going to probably wait a little bit longer yet. I'm still expecting a run up probably to around the 5K. And once we get into May-ish, somewhere around May, I expect we'll probably get down close, maybe even drop a little bit below the 3,100, 3,200 mark. And then that should probably settle the bottom. I could be wrong on that, but it's looking like we're awfully close to a bottom here. And there's lots of analysts out there. I think his name is Murad Muhammadov. Hopefully I'm not butchering that name too bad, but they're expecting 1,200 Bitcoin. And Tyler Jenks, I believe it is, he has his hyperwave theory. I'm going to kind of touch upon a bit of that. Now this is a few months old here now, but I'm not sure if you've seen this, but this time will be different. This is how I kind of think about things, when to buy, when to sell, when to hold. I didn't really sell any at the last top just because of the risks associated with it. So there's not a lot of proper on-ramps and off-ramps still to this day as far as I'm concerned. To move considerable amounts of Bitcoin to an exchange in Asia or Kraken or whatever, it's pretty risky. And then once you're out of crypto or Bitcoin, now your wealth can be confiscated. So if you have substantial money sitting on an exchange, yes, you can wire transfer it out. And I do have an account on an exchange where I have tiers of, I think I'm a 2, I can't remember. You're allowed to extract so many tens of thousands per month. The only problem with that is what happens if some of my transfers decide to get locked up by my bank? It does happen, and it can happen. And I have to answer for, well, why are you trying to move this money? So once you leave Bitcoin or you leave crypto, you're kind of vulnerable to the whims of the bank and the government again at that point. So cashing out, next time I probably will, to be honest with you, just a small portion of my holdings. I'm not going to give figures, obviously. But this chart is kind of rounds it up to the way I think. So as I was saying, I got in right around here. Late 2015, 16-ish. And obviously we had the bull. This is a projection of what FlibFlib thinks is going to happen in the next market. This doesn't necessarily have to come to fruition, but it's quite possible. There's some other comments down in here. This is a chart that I kind of wanted to show you where I was at. So I was considered kind of like first wave. You can see here the first wave of believers. It was right around where I got in here at the very start, after right around that golden cross era. And some of these projections, they're by 2021, 590,000. I don't know if I believe that. It's possible, I guess, but it's not something I believe. But you can still kind of see the trend, the exponential growth, and where it could possibly go. So yeah, like I said, I could have got in way back here. That's not even on this chart. And for those that say it's too late to get involved in Bitcoin and it's highly risky or it's never going to go even higher, just imagine how I felt when I didn't buy $2,000 worth of Bitcoin when it was $3 per Bitcoin. And then I ended up still buying in buying Bitcoin at 550 Canadian, or it was around 380 US. So it was a really tough pill for me to swallow. I almost did want to do it. I just want to just say, yeah, forget it. It's too late for me. It's never going to work. I missed the boat. It's not going to happen. So I never anticipated this giant run up to 20,000. I never anticipated it at all. I was expecting maybe 5,000 Canadian, or 5 to 7,000 Canadian by the end of 2017. Well, obviously it just went ballistic. So for those of you that are concerned that you may not want to get involved or you've missed the boat, I totally disagree. Because like I said, it was a really tough pill for me to swallow, knowing to buy in at these levels at $380 US when I could have bought it at under $3. So yeah, hindsight's always 20/20. But another one is the hyperwave theory. And this video was done by Tone Vazen. This isn't an attack against anyone in this video. Nick Core is a pretty intelligent guy. Tyler Jenks is a pretty intelligent man as well. So is Tone, obviously. But Tyler Jenks' theory here is that we're in this hyperwave. Again, it's from his analysis and what he's discovered. And I'm sorry, but again, hidden knowledge that someone has an oracle and you should believe and maybe possibly sign up to his investment fund. I don't recommend it, and I never intend to. But Bitcoin must go to $1,000 or around there in order for it to achieve back to its glory. I don't believe that. And the more that people can, these bears can talk the market down, do you really think that they're not going to be buying it on the cheap, hand over fist? Now, this individual here, Tyler Jenks, again, this isn't an attack on him, but he doesn't have any Bitcoin. He may have some now, but when this video, he did not have any Bitcoin. So the more you can talk the price down, I guarantee you, people will be buying this hand over fist. And if you're wrong and you're a bear calling this, really, is anyone going to hold it against you? So you're talking for all these extreme, outrageous low prices. What happens if they never arrive? What happens if you are sitting on the other end of this screen or holding on for this $1,000 Bitcoin, and then maybe you'll buy in? Well, if you haven't been dollar cost averaging in and you have no skin in the game, and I think you may be missing out, because like I said, in 2015, since now, I'm still up 900 to 1,000% on my holdings. So to me, that's substantial gains. So I just want to play this little clip here, because as these people talk the price down, not so much Tone and Nick Core here, but Tyler admits here that he doesn't have any Bitcoin. So I'm just going to push mute here and I'll play this real quick.
I just got off one of the groups I was in before I came on here, and they were all talking about longing it from here. And I said, do not, my opinion is do not long from here. Let the trade present itself. This is very choppy waters. The bottom is not in. This is not a place where you long anyway. Let it settle and let it chop up. But I got a question for Tyler. So you've actually never owned Bitcoin? Is it?
No.
Okay. Secondly, you had said something about the fundamentals of Bitcoin and referred to volume. What type of volume are you talking about? Transactional volume or exchange volume?
Well, both. To me, volume is a derivative of fundamentals. It's not a fundamental itself. To me, there's very few fundamentals in the crypto world other than mining, hash rates, transaction costs, number.
So I'm just going to pause it there, but you can clearly see that when this video was made, he has no coin. He doesn't have any. So one, it's a great play. If you can get people to invest in your trust because you have a hyperwave theory, you can protect their financial investments. As you're talking the price down, of course, you're going to be able to buy it even cheaper, because obviously, you know, it's a win-win situation. It's very clever, and maybe it's not intentional. Maybe he truly believes it. Again, this is an attack on them. But for somebody to say that this price, this asset has to go to this price, talking it down, when they have no skin in the game, I don't know. I'd be leery myself. One of the other reasons that I think now is a good time to get into Bitcoin is just because of what's happening globally. So if you're focused on price only in daily movements or weekly movements, this is a long-term strategy for me, and I'm sure maybe perhaps you as well, but a lot of hodlers, as you will, or holders. Back in December of 2018, we started to see the markets really take a hit. And it's pretty obvious where this is going to go, this entire fiat monetary experiment of quantitative easing. I call it QE to infinity. I didn't coin that term. But here's an article from December 24th of 2018. And when Steve Mnuchin met with the plunge protection team. Now, I'm not making this up. These aren't my theories. This is what's being reported from Reuters. And it says right here, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin will host a call with the President's Working Group on Financial Markets, also known as the Plunge Protection Team. So they're going to continue to keep the markets up as high as they possibly can go, and they'll print and do whatever it takes to keep this system going. Now, the talk most of 2017, even back into 2018 and even into 2017, was raising interest rates. And I try to tell my friends and family, I'm like, yeah, they might raise them a little bit, but as soon as there's a hint of any kind of uncertainty in the markets, they can't raise interest rates. They'll collapse the economy. We're beyond that now. Like we're talking, they printed up trillions and trillions of dollars, all the world central banks. They can't stop. And here we have Fed Chair Powell here, basically says he's watching and waiting. Now, this is from January, last month. But basically, they're in a rock and a hard place. They can't raise interest rates much more. They'll collapse the economy. And now they're talking about being, just watching. So again, this news is a little bit old, but I want you to think in the long-term perspective of where you're going to hold your cash. And one of the next article I'm going to get to is very interesting. I'm sure some of you have heard it, but I find it quite fascinating. But anyway, while the economic data points to momentum, the stock market sell-off suggests concern about downside risks. Powell said the Fed can be patient because inflation is low and under control. So now they're going to be patient. They kept saying, like, if you've watched the markets, he was under massive fire from the president of the United States to all kinds of people in the markets. And Wall Street basically called their bluff. And we've seen the markets sell off severely in December. It was one of the worst Decembers, I can't remember when, in 60 years or 70 years, long time. And of course, now they keep going up. Why? Because of this. Wall Street called their bluff. You're going to raise rates? Do it. This whole thing goes belly up. So of course, now we're back to a dovish Fed. We're back to plunge protection teams. And my favorite here is the IMF wants us to take us cashless during the next crisis. So this is my opinion. This is right from the IMF blog, the International Monetary Fund, cashing in on how to make negative interest rates work. And you can see the date here, February 5th, so just from about 2-3 weeks ago. And while the global economy has been recovering, future downturns are inevitable. So you have to remember that. They're inevitable. They always come in cycles, and it will happen again. Severe recessions have historically required 3 to 6 percentage points cut in policy rates. If another crisis happens, few countries would have that kind of room for monetary policy to respond. Now, in my country, Canada, we're even less interest rates than that in the US, I believe. It's wild. Like we have a housing bubble here. It just doesn't seem it's ever going to end. But unfortunately, it probably will. When, I don't know. I don't really care. I just hold Bitcoin. To get around this problem, a recent IMF staff study shows how central banks can set up a system that would make deeply, not minor, deeply negative interest rates a feasible option. So first they have to take us cashless. I'm not going to go into all the article, but in order for this to work, they have to take us to a cashless system. So how low can you go? In a cashless world, there would be no lower bound on interest rates. A central bank could reduce the policy rate from, say, 2% to minus 4% to counter a severe recession. The interest rate cut would transmit to bank deposits, loans, and bonds. Without cash, depositors would have to pay the negative interest rate to keep their money with the bank, making consumption and investment more attractive. So keep this in mind, to keep consumption and investment more attractive. So what they're telling you is they want to take us to a cashless society, deeply negative interest rates, so that you don't want to try to save capital. You're going to consume it in investment and through investments. Well, when you say investments, oh, that's right, government regulated investments, your money's going to end up on Wall Street. So you have to gamble because saving money is absolutely pointless. You just either spend what you have as quick as you can, or you have to invest it and give it to Wall Street. So for me, there's only one place for markets to go, and that's up. You might see some dips here and there and maybe a bit of a crash, but they're going to come back with a bail-in, or they're going to bring us this system, this monstrosity that is just unbelievable. This would jolt lending, boost demand, and stimulate the economy. And of course, you'd be poor, and any wealth you did have would be in the hands of a banker or some investment fund on Wall Street. Sorry, but I choose Bitcoin. So we have a world where world central banks will continue to print and inflate and inflate and inflate. And they're going to take us to negative interest rates with a cashless society. To me, this is nothing outside of pure theft. There is no nice way or polite way of saying it. It's pure theft. So looking at Bitcoin now, today, in my mind, is dirt cheap. Again, I'm not providing you financial advice. I'm just telling you what I'm doing, because I anticipate anything that I'm purchasing now, most likely during this year, another 2 to 4 years will probably return me another 900 to 1,000%. Why would I want to hold money in a bank? It makes no sense. Not just that, but here's another quick one. I think there's a lot of countries that are doing this, but this one here is from my country in Canada, and it's called Canada's Economic Action Plan from 2013. And they brought in bail-in laws, basically. So here, this has been in effect now for several years, but it says the government proposes to implement a bail-in regime for systemically important banks. This regime will be designed to ensure that in the unlikely event, if it was unlikely, they wouldn't need to create a law so they could actually get away with it. Why would you bother? In the unlikely event that a systemically important bank depletes its capital, the bank can be recapitalized and returned to viability through the very rapid conversion of certain bank liabilities. So remember, when your money's in a bank, that's their liability to you. Certain bank liabilities into regulatory capital. This will reduce risks for taxpayers. The government will consult with stakeholders on how to best implement a bail-in regime in Canada. Implementation timelines will allow for a smooth transition for affected institutions, investors, and other market participants. So this is running through all the Western world. So now you have bail-in regimes, never-ending money printing, a cashless society, and deeply negative interest rates. Long term, I only see Bitcoin going up until something better comes along that is decentralized and as robust as Bitcoin. I don't think anything competes with it. So that's where I'm saving my money. If I have to become poor and Bitcoin goes to zero, so be it. I want to see this system of fiat dead because it doesn't offer me anything. None of these government officials, central bankers, and criminals are providing me of any incentive to keep my money in fiat. The other alternative is that I trust it to Wall Street. Well, we all know what happens with that. We've seen it in 2008, and I'm not playing ball with that again. So this is some food for thought. Do your own research. Come to your own conclusions. Just remember this is highly risky. You could lose it all. For me, like I said, I'm prepared to risk Bitcoin going to zero because looking at what they got planned for me, it doesn't look too good. And Bitcoin is the cleanest shirt in the hamper. So thanks for watching. I hope this is informative and giving some food for thought. And I'll try to do some more videos as we continue through the bear market. And then maybe I'll disappear again. Till next time, take care.